Logan is directed by James Mangold and stars Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine. The film tells a story about Logan, the Wolverine, who has now been a retired X-Men who is facing the end of his life. And when he and Professor Xavier comes across a little girl, they must go cross-country to try and bring her to her new home. This was what I thought was going to be the final installment in the X-Men franchise. There were some other movies that came out afterwards, but it really did feel like that this was the finale to all the X-Men, bringing the characters of Professor Xavier and the Wolverine, played by Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman once again, to bringing their character story arcs to a close. And I think back then I really loved the film so much. It made me teary-eyed. And watching it now, I think it holds up even better. I really do love this film. I think it is one of the best comic films ever made. It is one of the first ones that made me legitimately cry in the theater. A lot of the same emotions can still be felt. I think the story is excellent. The directing is fantastic. The performance by Hugh Jackman as his character is incredible. Like, over 15 years, I believe. Yeah, over 15 years at the time of this film's release. This actor played this character to perfection. And I think with this film marks his best performance as his character. I really do think that this was worthy of an Oscar nomination, which it never received. It got a nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay, but I felt like this movie could have gotten a lot more nominations at the Oscars, because I think the directing, the action, the cinematography being so beautiful is just everything about this film I think worked. And that is due to James Mangold's excellent direction here. He gave this film a much more somber tone and is going for more of a Western type of vibes. There's a lot of Western references here in the film as well, which usually marks the end of a character's journey that will eventually lead to the ending of this film. And I think that kind of foreshadowing was brilliant. It is simple, it is not in your face, it is subtle, but it is there. And the build up to that eventual climax, I think, worked very well here. I also think that the screenplay, with it getting an Oscar nomination, is obviously really good. I think the characters of Wolverine and Professor Xavier are really good. They are much more weathered down. They are much more grizzled men than they were back then, with Professor Xavier now dealing with Alzheimer's, and that was really sad to see, because he was the man that kept all the X-Men together. And now with him needing the help of Logan, who him and Caliban and some of the other X-Men kids that are in the film, with them being the last possible mutants, it creates a very lonely nature to the film that I think worked out really well. These are two men that are struggling with being alone in a world that has completely rejected them, and are not even done trying to put the mutants into the ground and reject them completely. And seeing Logan go through all that, trying to hide his powers, trying to hide who he is very sad to see. But Hugh Jackman still gives this character a whole lot of strength and precision to try and make it through this story in one piece, to just take care of this little girl who in many ways is like him. And Daphne Keane as this character of X-23 is perfect. Laura is a great character. I think she is very, very well written. I really like a lot of the small mannerisms of aggression that he has that's very similar to Logan at his prime. And so when she eventually has to deal with a lot of emotional moments in the film, she does as good of a job as she does in the action sequences. Again, I'm betting that's all done with a stunt performer, not the actual kid. Just the character herself, I think, worked very well. And the banter between X-23 and Logan, I think, helped make the emotional core of this film hit really close to home. Now, I'm trying to be as spoiler free as possible because I still want to make sure that a lot of you guys have seen this film. But I'm going to talk a bit of spoilers right now, so skip ahead to this time code right here, and yeah, that will be where I will talk about my overall conclusions, thoughts, no spoilers. In the midpoint of the film, when Logan meets a family, that's when we see the bad guys bring in another character that is like a clone of Logan at his prime, a lot more aggressive, cannot speak. He is a literal monster. Basically, Logan is having to deal with what he could have been versus who he really is now. And so I think that creates a cool dynamic with him not only having to face someone physically stronger than him, but someone that it is impossible for him to truly defeat in any way, shape, or form in the state he is in now. Despite him being a lot more grizzled and angrier, he is even weaker now with the adamantium now poisoning him. And when we reach the climax, when the characters get to the place where they need to go, and they've lost Professor Xavier, he died with the family in the house, and Logan is now alone with X-23, he's not having self-doubt about himself once again after he's completed everything. He's once again a man with nothing and wants to let everything go. But he can't really. So he goes to save his surrogate daughter with one last dose of adrenaline pumping in his veins, which turns him into the berserk, just crazy Wolverine that we all love to see him be. And that final battle was just everything you want for a Wolverine movie. It was excellent stuff. The R rating helped a lot with the action sequences being a lot brutal here than in previous X-Men films. And Logan's death at the hands of his clone was sad. And I think the way his death played out and was directed was beautiful. And that final scene with all the kids at his grave and Laura turning the cross into the X-Men symbol, it was the perfect finale for this movie, but also for this franchise. This movie was perfect in my eyes and still is. I still think it holds up really well today. The characters are great, the music is excellent, the action is fantastic and very well helmed, the directing is solid, just everything about this film worked. And I cannot recommend it enough. I think it is one of the best comic book films ever made. And so for that, I am going to give Logan an A+. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys next time.